Hey there, everybody. Robert Taylor with Wonderscape Creations, continuing on with another optimization video. We'll be wrapping up this small set of videos with showing you how to now activate this level at runtime. Now, obviously, if you wanted to, you could initial runtime state you could put as activated, and it would show up. And what I mean by that is if we jump on down here, because it's now in a data layer, I hit play, you'll see that the crystals aren't here. And that's because initial runtime state is unloaded. And that's its default, because obviously in almost all cases you want to start off as unloaded. So we are going to keep that in mind. And it's something you need to remember, because if it's something that you want loaded, but after a certain event or something happens, then it unloads it, then you can do that. You also have the loaded, so it's loaded, but it's not visible. Um, and this can be very important to remember and to utilize. That way, if they might show up in that location, then they're loaded into memory, but until they're actually in that location, it's not activated. And that's what happens. Essentially, that's what we're going to be setting up. To have two boxes, collision boxes, to have it to where once we get to, oh, I don't know, this point in near the cave, then it's going to load the whole cave, the cave for us. And once we enter the entrance, then it'll load in the crystals. Um, that's how we're going to be doing it for this one. Now, the better thing to do is to, again, still a blueprint, still two collisions, but when you walk in, it checks, is it loaded? No, ignore that collision. And then when you cross over the other one, is it loaded? No, load it. So essentially creating an entrance exit collision. Um, just a lot cleaner, a lot more control, um, and is generally a lot better when you're going to have things only loaded when people enter a specific location. Excuse me. Whereas the one that I've created is, generally speaking, best when the player can come in from multiple directions. So let's go ahead and get this started here. The first thing you're going to want to do is, I will go over here, make this bigger, click in here. I'm going to find my blueprint. So I've got mine under blueprints, under tools, under open world. So if that's what you want, how you want yours set up file wise, go ahead and do that. And then you're just going to create a blueprint actor. So blueprint class actor. I named mine data layer tool. I'll likely change the name once I make a second one. And when you open it up, you're not going to have anything there, obviously. But the first thing we're going to want to do is add two collision boxes, because that's all these are box collisions. So once you've created both of them, I named one load data layer collision, and then the other one activate data layer collision. And I made the line thickness 5 for both of them, I believe. Yep. And then the box extends for the load one I made bigger. That way it's easier for me to select in the world. Now, once we've done that, we will want to right click on either of them. Right click on either of them and go to add event and find on component begin overlap. And the first one we are going to start with is on component begin overlap for the load data layer collision. Now, I have the possibility of having multiplayer. I haven't decided yet, but regardless, I will also have companions, and that I'll need that information as well, but I haven't done that yet. So you don't have to necessarily do this this function right here, but I will show it to you guys. But I open this up. The input pin is literally just of type actor, and I'm getting the game state to get the player array so that I know how many players there are. And I'm gonna see if if the pawn equals this actor. If it does, I'm adding a unique to the player array. And then player array not empty, which is a function I made. I open it up. This is literally all it is. Player array, which is the array that I made in the for this function right here for the add unique. And then is empty, put in a not bool, and put it in there as a return value. And this is the important part. I made it pure because I'm just getting data. This is simply some bool data information. So it tells me right then and there. Once we're done, is this empty? If it's not, then we continue on to loading the data layer. Now for that, we need a data layer, actor data layer. So make sure you create a variable, actor data layer, set to instance editable, because we want to select the data layer that we want to load. And then let's open up this function. And what we want to do is the condition, state 1, state 2, outstate option. So unloaded, activated, outstate option. One second, my dog is barking. All right, so this data state or bool is something that I created because we want to make sure that this is correct. And I can't remember what it was, and this is why it's important to write down notes. This was before I even had my team of 7, so I honestly can't remember everything that I've done in this. So, little side tangent, write notes even for yourself. So with that being said, I know I have this for a reason, and I'm sure I'll remember at some point. You don't necessarily have to have this, but I have a data layer runtime state. Unloaded here is where it's defaulted at. Data layer runtime state is of type, let's make this wider here, data layer runtime state. I have that hidden for some reason, which means I'm not using it. Okay. But anyways, well, I am using it because it's setting it right here. Anyhow, once I've done that, obviously it's pure, made it a branch. Once it's true, so we open this up. If the data layer runtime state equals this or this, it's false. If it doesn't, then we want to go through and add it as our data layer runtime state and set our data layer. So you're going to want to get the data layer subsystem. So data layer subsystem right there. Drag out of it, set data layer runtime state. Plug in your data layer. Plug that in right there. Not 100% sure what this does. Haven't played with it. But that is what's going to load this layer into memory. It's not going to make it visible yet, but it is now loaded. So if you think about this and you do everything correctly, then as you're getting close to a highly populated area, you're slowly loading things in. They're not visible yet because they don't need to be, but you're slowly loading everything in, which means you're not going to have those frame drops that constantly happen when a new Unreal Engine game comes out from people who don't take the time to optimize. We need to stop doing that. Um, so I'm stressing this. Do everything in small pieces. Now let's head back to our event graph. And we've now done this part right here. Load data layer. That's done. The next thing we want to do is on component begin overlap for activating the data layer collision. So we want to make sure we're now going to select the activate data layer collision, right click it, and start this event. The very first thing we want to do is make sure that the player array isn't empty. It shouldn't be, but we're gonna play things safe. We don't want crashes. Um, we don't want things loading that shouldn't be loading. And what I mean by that is we don't want someone who's not a player to load everything in, which again isn't really necessary because we do it right here. It can activate data layer. Again, we're opening it up. Player array, something that we set up as soon as everything got loaded in. And if they can, it's true. And now that I see this might not necessarily work in certain situations. So once I run into that situation, I'll fix it then if I run into that situation. But this might also 100% work. Because in all honesty, we just need to make sure one of them works. Yeah. As long as one of them is there, then it should activate it. So let's go ahead and do that. We're just going to do this right here. We will. Oh, never mind. We don't need. The way I did it will work because as soon as it can be activated, it breaks the loop and returns it. Never mind. So you don't necessarily have to do it this way. You can do it with the way that I was about to do it, which is just return true. And if it completes, return false. Something that I learned after I made this. And then activate data layer, which is very similar to when we loaded it in. We're just now changing it to activated. Whereas if we go to the where is it? Load data layer, unloaded, activated, loaded is the out state here. Because I didn't want to have a button. I don't like repeating stuff if I don't have to. Likewise, if we go back to this one, it's loaded, unloaded, activated. So now we're going to activate, which now also makes it visible. Perfect. Now that we've done that, let's head on back into the event graph. Now we want to turn it off. But not when we've left the activate data layer collision, but when we leave the load data layer collision. So component end overlap for the load data layer collision. Again, we're going to make sure that the player array isn't empty. If it is, remove the players from the array. Is the array empty? Once it is, unload data layer. Again, exact same thing. Loaded, activated, unloaded. And we're just going to unload it. Very simple. Pound save. And now we're going to add it to our world. Drag this in here. Just like this. And here's why for this instance this won't work. Because now, in order to make sure that this whole area doesn't unload, I have to make sure first that I choose the entrance room. I need to make sure that this whole area right here is completely and totally that this box covers the whole thing. By this box, I mean the load one. Let's make this the same size all around here. Where's the size? There we go. As you can see, I made it unnecessarily large here. So let's divide this by 4. There. I just want to make sure that I got it. So now it's going to load in right here. The problem is, if the player can still see it when I get outside of the bounds, which in this case I won't, it'll unload it. So it's not unloading it; it's unloading it in an it could unload things in an inopportune time. So that's why I'll likely be making an entrance one, an entrance exit one for control points. Now, the next part, it's the activate one. So we just want to make this one big enough that when the player comes through here, it's going to activate. So, let's go ahead and hit play. And we're going to take a look at a few things while it's playing. Select data layer, Lakeside Grotto. It's showing unloaded. Interestingly enough, it's still showing as unloaded. I've never actually watched it as I'm going through. But once I come in here, the crystals are all here. But as you can see, it looks like I got too far away. I exited the bounds, so it unloaded it. And that's what I was talking about. So now if I close out, I bet you, yep, there's the bounds right there. So, despite these bounds being very large, it's not enough. So we want to make this even larger. And the green. Make this 5,000. Go this way. Yeah, no real water yet. Now, I'll run down in here. It's showing is activated. Now you can see up there in the top left here where Lakeside Grotto entrance room activated. If I run on out, I get far enough away, unload it. If I run back in, activated. For some reason, it's not changing it to loaded. I'll deal with that later. For now, we just need to be happy with the fact that it is doing its job, it is optimized, and you guys can now work with your open worlds a little more safely with a little bit more information. I may take the time now to create that door optimization for data layers. If not, it'll likely be in the next week's episode. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you later.